Ken Rosenthal. And Ken, wanted to see how you doing. Wanted to see if you heard the back end there of what Corbin was talking about. And as you'd imagine, there's going to be that kind of ongoing battle with especially pitchers not happy about the pitch clock news coming out that it could change. And really, I think the next layer of it is the league set it up so that they can make the changes whenever they want. So I just feel like at some point we got to get the two sides to get along a little better. And they're all looking at it as, well, we're just on the board just to hear things, right? Because we're never going to actually be able to swing a vote on any rules.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote about this today. Last season, there were 10 clarifications issued after opening day, adjustments to the new rules. Most involved the pitch clock, if I'm not mistaken, but not all of them. There were some different things that had to be addressed. And the players feel, and when I say the players, I mean in general, that their concerns were not addressed until later, until those clarifications were issued. And what they're saying now is, why not just address these concerns now so we don't have to issue clarifications once the season starts? Wouldn't that make sense? And I agree with them. So their concerns are being heard. In fact, one of the proposals in there was suggested by Whit Merrifield. But in general, a lot of pitchers oppose this idea of going from 20 to 18. And one of the points that was made to me yesterday in preparing the story I wrote about all of the different changes that are being proposed and suggested, the complaint that I heard was, hey, we just had a really successful year. This was undoubtedly a success. Corbin said it too. Everyone agrees that the game is in a better place. Why can't we assemble more data, compile more data, and get to the point where we really know the impact of the clock on pitcher health and maybe have a better idea of how to go forward, rather than take yet another step to reduce the clock, increase the stress on pitchers with runners on base? In my opinion, that's a fair concern. And it has only been 1 year. There's only 1 year of data on this. And let's face it, pitcher injuries are complicated things. You can't blame them solely on the clock. Velocity is the biggest driver of pitcher injuries. Breaking balls are being thrown harder than ever. Fastballs, of course. That's what's going on. But at the same time, why increase the risk? As it was described to me yesterday, why take a 1% chance that injuries are going to increase for 5 minutes per game? Is that worth the 1% chance of injury? Maybe MLB would say yes. I would suggest that with injuries such a concern across the sport, the answer is no.
Are injuries a concern for owners in the sense that, like, because we saw what happened with football. Now, obviously, those were concussions. We're talking about arm injuries. Is there a committee that is committed to doing this investigation in the sense of, like, because we have a competition committee who clearly thinks that 5 extra minutes cut off a game that's gonna improve it. Have they already started an investigation, or is this something that, okay, well, now that you brought it up, maybe we'll start an investigation, but we're still going to unilaterally make this change?
Well, the 39-page document that the Joint Competition Committee issued, and I got a copy of it, says on the very last page that injuries are definitely a concern, that they're a concern throughout the sport, and they are launching a study to try to get a better grasp of what is going on. Now, where these studies go, who knows? But they're aware. Now, what one player told me, speaking on condition of anonymity, is that Manfred, in his opinion, the commissioner, is speaking out of both sides of his mouth. He wants to take care of starting pitchers. He wants starting pitchers to become more prominent again. They're important for the sport. He recognizes that. And at the same time, by reducing the clock with runners on base from 20 seconds to 18, you are potentially increasing the risk of injury. And those two things do not go together. So there is disagreement on this front. And baseball's point is there has not been any proof that the clock and the injury rate are related. And as the season went on last year, as players became more accustomed to the clock and how to manipulate it, the times of games did increase. That's a valid concern. But my question would be, do we really need to do this right away? And that's the question players are asking.
Talk about a trade that just went down between the Braves and White Sox. I feel like the Braves made out again. I was telling Scott before, it seems like they're starting to be the the Tampa Bay team of the American League, and now they're the National League, the Rays, trying to get these pitchers to come in. Aaron Bummer, really good pitcher, left-handed guy. I know the numbers don't speak of what he can be, but talk to us about that trade, and who do you think made out? I think the Braves did.
Actually, Todd, I thought both made out. And when you're the White Sox and you've got a reliever who is part of a group of players that has the most volatile performance in the game, and you can turn that reliever into 5 players, I think you do that every time. And in the Braves case, some of these players, actually all of them really, were expendable. But for the White Sox, if they get 1 or 2 contributors out of this, decent contributors, maybe Soroka becomes a viable starter. Schuster the same. Nicky Lopez, a good utility infielder. Shoemake went backwards last year. But if they get a couple of guys out of this that can contribute for them over a longer term, that to me is a good trade for them, the kind of trade that they should be making. Now, from the Braves' perspective, yes, Todd, you're absolutely right. They trade 5 guys that really weren't going to be important contributors for them next season for a guy who can be a very important contributor for them. Aaron Bummer is a top left-handed reliever. His advanced metrics show that. He's been that kind of guy, and they've got him under club control for potentially 3 years. So I really thought both teams made out pretty well here.
I like that. Okay, let's get an update on the Shohei Ohtani market. Your thoughts on what you've been hearing lately and potentially any new suitors in the mix, because he didn't let anyone know where his head was at yesterday because there were technical difficulties for his MVP conference with the reporters.
Well, that was a joke, first of all, and that cannot happen. Here's a guy who has not spoken to the media in months. He wins the MVP, and they can't figure out how to get him to the reporters, can't figure out how the access is going to work, the conference call, whatever it was. That was not good. As for what more we have learned, I don't think we know any more today than we knew a week ago or even a month ago. And it all rests with him. Now, I wrote a little note about how some teams view the Blue Jays as a sleeper here, a potential sleeper. And yeah, that's possible. Toronto, international city, growing Japanese population. They might not be so willing to commit to Guerrero and even Bichette long-term as they were, say, a year ago. And sure, it would make sense for them, left-handed bat. But to me, the teams are going to be the same teams we've been discussing really from the beginning. And guys, it all, to me, comes down to what he wants. If he wants to play for the Los Angeles Dodgers, they'll give him the money he wants. If he wants to play for the Cubs, the Red Sox, name a team, name any team that's in this mix, the money is going to be there, in my opinion. It's just a matter of what his geographic desires are, what his competitive desires are, and where he wants to be. We don't know the answer to that, and we're going to eventually find out the answer to that. But as far as last night, good for him winning unanimous MVP. That was awesome. To do it twice now speaks to who he is as a player. But for whatever happened, I don't know what happened with the conference call, and maybe there was a perfectly valid reason. I would just say it should not have happened.
Ken, I can tell you why there's not a valid reason, okay? And I'm not just going to throw conspiracy theories out there. And I can say with this one, I haven't spoken to anyone about this. This is just common sense, right? If there is technical difficulties with trying to get someone set up tech-wise to speak to reporters, I'll ask you this question. If the league came back to you and said, hey, sorry, Ken, and the dozens of other reporters that didn't get to talk to him, we're going to reschedule it for today. Are you guys cool with talking to Ohtani today, or did we mess up everyone's schedules? They can reschedule this any freaking day.
Absolutely, we're cool with him talking today. And from the beginning, and I don't know if this is Shohei's wish or if it's the wishes of his agent, Nez Balello, if it's just a strategy that CAA has embarked upon. I'm not sure exactly where this is coming from, but they have protected him. They have hit him in some cases, and it works. No one's going to complain too much. He's Shohei Ohtani. He's doing amazing things on the field, and when he's available to us, he's available. But that was a bad look last night, in my opinion, and in general, some of the decisions that have been made here, I do question. For instance, when the surgery was announced, they would not announce what kind of surgery it was. Now, the doctor said some things and made a statement, but it still has not officially been out there, whether it's Tommy John, whether it's Tommy John with an internal brace, whether it's some other procedure. Los Angeles Times has reported it was Tommy John. Why are we hiding the ball here? The teams are going to have to know at some point. You have to tell them if you're asking them for $500 million. So why can't the public know? And I just think that sometimes players in general are overmanaged. This guy's getting overmanaged, in my opinion.
Hey, Ken, are you going to be the cause of a team not signing Ohtani? Because if you put something online saying this team is talking to Ohtani, he said he's going to be pissed off and not have a decision made with that team, I heard. So you got to be careful, right?
I have not heard that, Todd, and I seriously doubt anything I write is going to affect this decision.
Hey, he said it.
He didn't
Exactly.
say it, but there was a report, yes. And so, again, I think it just plays to what Ken's talking about. Relax. This is not the CIA. Like, come on. A little more transparency here. That's the same thing. One side of us is like, he's amazing. We love and respect the hell out of the player, and we know he's busy as hell during the season. But it's getting a little helicopter parent-ish for everyone.
I agree.
In how far it's going.
Scott, he has every right to do whatever he wants, and I get that. There is, however, a responsibility that comes with being one of the best players. And what his next team will face, if this continues, is a situation where reporters are going to his teammates and asking them questions about Ohtani if Ohtani is not willing to answer questions. Now, fans say all the time, well, you guys should leave the players alone. Yeah, that's fine. That's a good thing to think about when you're 500 miles away and when it's not your job. But here's the problem that exists in a clubhouse when that happens, and you guys can speak to this. When one player won't talk, the burden falls to other players. That is a problem, and it's not being a good teammate in that situation. So Ohtani's gotten away with speaking just after his starts. It's been fine. No one's really had major complaints. But I would imagine if I were a team committing that kind of money to him and basically making him the face of my brand, I would want a little more. And it's going to be really interesting to see if he's willing to give a little more, because this has worked for him. And we all understand he works in a different level than other players do because he's doing two things. Everybody knows that. You can't talk to him every day. He's busy, man, before games. But at the same time, there's got to be a happy medium here, in my opinion.
Yeah, and your colleagues, Sam Blum at The Athletic, said it's been since August 9th. So we just want to hear from you, Shohei, even if it's like not the craziest, conversation. So on the topic of crazy, let's finish with the Oakland A's here. So I'll go right to this quote because we've covered this story quite a bit the last few days, but haven't spoken to you since the news became official that obviously the voters were unanimous. Bill Shaken put up this quote from Rob Manfred's press conference from yesterday on Fisher. Over the long haul, yes, I think he has been a good owner. Do you agree?
No. And this failure of the A's to stay in Oakland and the inability to get something done there, everyone is blaming, or everyone being MLB and Fisher, is blaming Oakland for this. And I'm sure Oakland was not, at times, the most willing and able partner. But the way he ran the franchise down, the way this has all gone down, I'm sorry, you cannot say he is a good owner. Now, if you're Rob Manfred and you're employed by the owners, that's what you're going to say. And I don't recall that I've heard yet a crossword from Manfred about any owner. It just doesn't happen. And as much as we would like it to happen, the reality is he works for those guys. So he's going to defend those guys. He's going to be their shield. But that comment, as are some of the comments by Fisher over the last few days, is not being taken seriously by anyone who's paying attention here. Anyone who's paying attention here knows the way this franchise has been run over the years. And while they were successful at times, very successful at times, and that is on John Fisher's record, what happened lately in the last, 5 years to lead to this moment, to me, it's a bit unforgivable. And this should not have happened. And I don't know that it's going to be good for baseball that it did happen. I want to see how going to a team in a much smaller market is going to benefit this club long term. I want to see how this all works out for them. They've got all these grandiose plans. Okay, let's see if it happens. Let's see how they fare. Let's see if he increases payroll, if the revenues increase, or let's see if John Fisher just acts like John Fisher has acted for quite some time now.
So let me follow up. Last one for you on the A's here. How much has this hurt? I've been using this word a lot lately. The brand of the franchise, because I've been saying, I'm sorry, Vegas, you're dealing with a really bad owner. So I hope that he sells is the best thing for you, because I want you to have fun with your baseball team and not be, kind of ruined by this. And for the brand of the game, which you kind of touched on already, but for baseball itself. I mean, even in the press release that I read yesterday, and it was long from Fisher, he says like, "Oh, we tried to get it done with private financing," and then like two paragraphs later, he's like, "Oh, the city didn't come through." I'm like, "Are you trying to fool people within the same press release?" It's just, to me, it's gotten so ridiculous. It was either him or Caval who said that it'll make money for Vegas and that'll get reinvested into schools. Like they've gotten so out of hand.
That has
That's
never happened
ridiculous.
in the history of public finance stadiums. Not happening.
So it's offensive.
That's a ridiculous statement. Yeah, I understand. But Fisher, to me, he's under the gun here, so to speak. He needs to prove that he is going to make this work. And every time I've asked MLB about Oakland and the negotiations with Oakland, and people in the game, other ownership types, they have been consistent, rightly or wrongly, in saying it just couldn't work there. Okay, maybe it just couldn't work there, but I don't know that their best foot was put forward. Put a better product on the field, maybe you get more fans, who knows what happens. But the whole thing has just left a sour taste in a lot of people's minds. And you asked Scott about the brand and the brand of Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is not going to suffer much with this. The brand is what it is, and it takes a little bit of a dent here. It will take a bigger dent if this does not succeed, and there's no guarantee of success here by any stretch of the imagination. The A's brand, on the other hand, that has taken a dent. And if I'm a fan in Las Vegas, I'm deeply suspicious of what's coming my way. I want to see proof that you're going to put a competitive team on the field before I give you my dollars and all these tourism dollars that they're expecting. Okay, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But they're ultimately going to be held to the standard of success. That is not a standard that they have been willing to meet in recent seasons. They've gone backwards. They have one of the best management teams in baseball, and a management team that was getting it done without much resources, and even that group couldn't get it done with what they gave them. So we'll see. We will see what happens here.
And thanks for obviously, being strong on this. And I'll just tell you, Ken, I spoke to some people, and I'm going to continue to poll them. A's fans are not following the team, many of them. I was saying, I grew up a Nets fan, and when they moved to Brooklyn, it wasn't like all messed up like this. I just was like, I don't feel the same connection to them.
I'm with you, dude. That's funny.
People don't realize, and then unless they're going to be Giants fans, we will lose fans in the sport. Like, that's real in my mind. So
no doubt that's real. And again, in the long run, if Vegas succeeds, it's all a wash, I guess. But
sure.
Again, we've talked about this for months. I've written about it. The way this all went down, not a good look.
No. Yeah, I'm pissed. Ken, thank you. Besides that, though, have a nice weekend. We'll look forward to seeing any trades popping up.
You too, guys. Take care.